it's not practical because of this just gets too much salt dust everywhere.
Okay, so that's the melicha, and that's the melicha on the klima nukav. How about basar shashal gimel yamim? Especially with a goyish holiday.
So I'll tell you what, before you get to that, that's a special situation. Then, of course, you have to have the hadacha, right? The hadacha achrayna.
How do you do the nifut and the hadacha?
Okay, so the way it depends. If it's a big plant that has everything automated, usually it'll go through into a shower, and then
I'm sorry, I wanted on topic. When you say a big plant, I'm gonna go off topic. When you say a big plant, what is a big plant average shecht a day?
Okay, so
this is your field.
You're right, but it's impossible to say. There is no average. But a place that's doing hundreds of sides of beef a day, right? Hundreds. That's called a big plant, and you need a very sophisticated and automated system to be efficient, right? So in places like that,
hundreds of beef is how many kosher, how many glatt?
I'm talking about hundreds of kosher beef. It doesn't matter whether it's kosher or glatt. It has to be kosher, right?
I'm asking you a tricky question. How many glatt?
There's no
statistic.
There's no, well, whatever.
I'm putting him against the wall. How many?
Okay, you put him against the wall. Let me tell you my standard answer.
For every 10, how many glatt?
People ask me, what's your percent? What percent do you get?
Why is it your percent?
Well, when you're working, what's your percent? My answer is 100%. What does that mean, 100%? 100%? I said, absolutely. Everyone that's kosher is 100% kosher. Okay? And if it's not, it's 100% treif. Okay?
Very good answer.
There's no answer to that. You know what I mean? It depends where the behemoths are coming from. It depends with who. You know what I mean?
It's not your.
Whatever is kosher is my kosher. Whatever is not is not. Okay?
Very good answer.
Okay.
Okay, so we're up to not basar shashal gimel yamim.
Okay, so then it comes then you have the hadacha, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the hadacha achrayna, if it's in a big plant, usually in a big plant, it's very automated because they're doing a lot and they have to be efficient, right? It'll usually go through a shower first, and then it'll go through 3 hadachas. Okay.
It turns itself over.
No, it goes on the chain. It'll go into a pool and another pool and another pool. Okay, or it goes into a pool and then there's
in Postal also. I saw it. It turns itself over.
In the hadacha?
It goes and maybe it changed many years ago.
Okay.
But the chain, you're right. I don't understand.
But in a smaller place.
Because the Gemara Taka says the reason why you need it 3 times, so the water, the first one is black and then it becomes a little white. But if it goes like this, it's taka black. I mean, the first. How often do they change those waters?
No, there's usually constant fresh water.
Oh, that's why they do it now?
It's overflowing. It's constant fresh water.
And it's filtered? The water is filtered?
It's regular water. It's water.
No, but the water, they change the water?
Yeah, fresh water goes in and then it goes to the drain or whatever.
Yeah,
it's constantly filling.
I'm always worried.
Yeah.
And the hadacha rishayna is also fresh water.
The shriya before the melicha is also you have constant flow of water. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to that question about the basar shashal gimel yamim.
Okay. So
let me explain the question, because we live in America. There's so many holidays. There's so many goyish holidays. There's this holiday, this holiday.
Okay. So the question is that basar shashal gimel yamim. So the issue is now the melech doesn't have the koyach to take out
You only have to sleep.
Okay, and it can only be done with sleep, right?
Now we're spoiled. We don't want to eat sleep. We want to eat a cooked chicken.
Okay, you're saying chicken all the time. I'm thinking always meat.
You know the mice with the chat shefegen. With the chat shefegen or no? Melicha mas.
Risi bein.
By America.
Risi echlim katletten mamish. Yeah.
Basar achman al-Islam.
Okay, whatever. The different size. Al kolpanim. Okay, so what's the eitzah? So the eitzah is, as you know from you're the Shulchan Aruch, right? That if you If the flesh, there's a yes, what's the eitzah to be able to be mamshich that you could have another 3 days?
You have to spritz it.
No, it doesn't say spritz. It has to be. I remember the lashon.
It says
imsharu. Then you have another. What's the taich? So there you have alasar, you have deren, dachrenim, right? What it means exactly.
Right.
There was a time when people were very mekel, spritz with a hose. Okay. The Pischitshuv, I think says something that no, it has to mamish be shriya mamish. Then there's also others that say this shriya itself, it only helps if it was already menuker from the
Right,
Gedidam.
right.
I push don't
I
remember
think the
offhand.
Shach even says that.
Okay, has to have been already menuker from
Shach
the
says that.
Gedidam, right? So,
Yeah.
aha. This does not happen often,
Right.
okay? It almost never happens
Why it never
because
happens? It happens
it
every
does.
Goyish holiday.
No, it doesn't because you try to arrange that it shouldn't happen, right?
You try to finish everything off.
Exactly. It rarely ever happens, but it has happened, and it does happen. And basically, I cannot tell you because it's such a rare thing that I can't tell you exactly what the standards are for everybody, but I can tell you what Rabbi Zalman Shimon Dorkin told us to do once. He said it would happen once, was an emergency. I forget exactly what happened, but it was taka was it was a time, it wasn't because of the Goyish holidays, but lahavdil, but the Yiddish holiday was, I think it was
Chalamoid, Pesach.
it was 2 days Yom Tov with Shabbos,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so this was a one-time situation, and he said erstens there should be a sheiresh, my mamish ashriya,
Right.
and then he said, "Oh, noch besser as is shemenuker from the Gedida." Okay.
And then it becomes a bigger shiloh if you could do it on Shabbos, on Yom Tov.
Whatever. If you want to hear what happened, actually, it was a very interesting thing. What happened? Since it was 3 days Yom, it was 2 days Yom Tov and Shabbos. Was tutman was, and the place is far away. You couldn't have a meshgiach go, right? So here was an automated system. So everything was menuker before Shabbos. It was all on the chain, right? And then
Where was this, in Pittsburgh?
This was in Pittsburgh, where your father over Shalom worked for a short time. And then the meat would go on the chain, and then it would go into the shria and go around, so that it doesn't come out after until a half hour, right? So before Yom Tov, Erev Yom Tov, you got all the meat menuker and on the chain, okay? And then they had the goy taka come in on Yom Tov just to turn on the chain. Turn on the chain, and it went through the water.
He was the only one in the building?
He was the only one guy came. We came wissen. Oh, you mean talk about Bosnish and Asalim?
Yeah.
Every piece of meat has a simin. It
No.
has a simin. What are you talking about? What's the problem?
Shnei chazamas.
Well, whatever it is,
Okay, I'm telling him.
okay. What do you mean? Meat stays.
Unless you relied on the movie camera.
It had steiches.
Okay, whatever.
After we finish shechting meat, right, and you have to mark it, right? Yeah. What do? You have a stamp.
Yeah.
You mark the meat with a stamp, 2 stamps, whatever it is. That's it. What else do you have? Right? You have a stamp on the meat.
Right.
That's what makes the meat. Okay. It wasn't so much about, he wasn't dealing with that issue. That issue was already, you just go home at night and whatever, and you leave the meat, right? The meat is left and it's stamped. It's stamped with kosher stamps, right?
So you let the guy come in and...
The guy came, turned on the system, and he ran it through. Now, how did you know that the taka thing was full with water, right?
Yeah.
He could have ran it through and the thing wasn't full of water.
Yeah.
So he says, but very simple. If you run the meat through it, right, and you come Matzah Yom Tov and you see the water is all red and whatever, you know that the meat, right? Is that right? That the meat went through it. It was a one-time situation. That's what we did. But it's a rare thing. You usually schedule so that this should never happen, right? So there was no such thing that you have taka meat that was more than 3 days.
Okay, so we'll finish off with one last question. Rabbi Deren?
Yes.
One last question. I know you're running to hop a plane. Tell us one crazy shaila that happened in your experience. Can I know, how long are you a sheikhed? How long are you a sheikhed? What is this? What is
whatever.
Okay.
On and off, 35 years.
35 years, can I know. I may have asked him. Tell us a shaila that's a mind-boggling shaila.
A shaila is treif.
And then tell me a story that happened.
I can tell you that Bechlal,
Not a shaila, but a
the heintige Zeiten, you have to know what is a shaila.
Yeah. Oh, good.
You have to know what is a shaila.
First of all, today's no shaila. Everybody asks shailas on the WhatsApp today.
Today you have to. The ikar is you have to know what's a shaila, right? And if you know that it's a shaila, was tut man? Heintige Zeiten nowadays, you don't have to hesitate. Shaila, you don't take. Okay, we're not rabbonim. And nobody's going to call rabbonim. It's a whole different story in Eretz Yisrael where you have a hefsem. I'll tell you, when I was learning Ashchita,
where was that?
And I was in Eretz Yisrael before I actually started working, and I wanted to still see some places, right? So I went to a place in Eretz Yisrael. Over there, where they do the bedikas chutz, where they check the reyes. Right?
Explain what bedikas chutz means.
When they check the reyes, they check the lungs.
Reyes lung.
They check the lungs, right? There's a rav in the shlachtes, in the packing house, paskening shilas on every single area. And he has a shtibel like you have over here in Tzvarim, right, a room right off of where they're working. And he's running up and back, and he's checking Svarim, and so on and so forth. As a matter of fact, when he noticed me there, he says, "Where are you going to work as a shaykhit?" So I say, "I'll be a mitzvah Hashem, I'll be in America, I'm going back to America." So he says, "If that's the case," he says, "don't even look what's going on over here. We have a different Shulchan Aruch here. What's a different Shulchan Aruch? Mom in Yisrael, Hefsid Merubah, v'chulu, 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 right? So in Eretz Yisrael, you're dealing with animals that belong to a Yid, right? It's Mom in Yisrael, number one, and then, and if it's a Hefsid Merubah, so there's all kinds of different ways to deal with it in halacha, right? In America, this doesn't exist. There's no such thing. It's generally not Mom in Yisrael, and we don't worry about Hefsid Merubah, right? Shaila, treif. We don't need a rov to paskin shailas. But the sheikh has to know what's a shaila. But once you know it's a shaila, it's...
Yeah, but from the other hand, Chassidim know that stama vegvar, the whole thing is to be mild and violent. I mean, I don't want to sound like a cow, chas v'shalom. Even in the Rishimus, it's brought that by Chassidim, stama vegvar from Zeichnish. Right? Am I saying something wrong?
In theory, I hear what you're saying. I'm just trying to see how to apply it here.
You're not gonna right away when you have a shiloh.
We're not changing the policy when it comes to this. This is
no,
not
I'm
my
saying
policy.
when you have a shiloh, you're not saying treif right away. That's not your policy.
Generally speaking, there are certain things that if it's a shaila in halacha, right? L'mashal, you have different buis on a reya, right? Mayim achuri,
the whole
right?
Shulchan Aruch we're talking about. A sircha, you're right. I know. A suffix and a sircha were makbid, right?
Okay.
That's the whole thing. Is that right?
Correct.
We're learning about that. The sircha, because we don't know what a sircha, what's fine, because we weiß nicht.
Yeah.
But stamazay song treif, that's not what we do.
Obviously, not just flippantly, just to say it's safe because you don't know it, because by dears you're missing some. But there's certain things that it's established that we're not going to paskin on this. You know what I'm saying? You're just going to. It's L'mashal. Again, I'll speak very technical halachically, but probably for your audience, it's not. But there's such a thing as a tinri, right? A tinri. It's like it's hard to explain. But that is something, l'mashal, that you know that from Shulchan Aruch, it's not even a shaila, right? It's a bua, but it's like dry. It's a dry.
A bua, explain a bua.
Bua is a blister, let's say, a blister, right? So if it's dry, so it's not a shaila. It's not a shaila, l'chatchila, it's 100%. Once you have something else, it could be mayim achurim. It depends if it's.
These are things in hilchos treifus.
Exactly.
We're not learning treifus.
You're right.
These are for the special people. The special people.
Al Kopanim, what I'm saying is that generally speaking,
in Smicha we don't learn treifus anymore.
You don't learn treifus, I know that. Yeah. Unless you want to be specialized in
specialized medicine.
Right, but they do Baruch Hashem. I understand that they do a lot of things that in our days they didn't. Hilchos Shabbos, Machal Yaakov, and all these things, which is all very nice.
So you want to tell us one interesting shiloh happened in your experience? Some interesting shiloh.
I cannot think of anything.
Nothing.
You're catching me off guard. You're supposed to tell me. You're supposed to prepare me and tell me. Then I would come up. I'll make up something.
A piece of meat got lost. Something. I'm sure it happened. I know it always happens. If it's a piece of meat that misstamped, got lost. Something. I want to hear. Nothing happened. Yeah. It happens always, no?
No. Because today, you always, when in doubt, you do without. You don't. Okay. You just don't. We try to keep a very high standard, and the way to keep a high standard is we don't look for chachmis. You do b'starov, and you're learning Shulchan Aruch, and you know what I mean. You want to learn it, academically from alle Seiten, right? From all the possibilities, and right. But when it comes practically speaking, there's a lot of competition. By the way, Kinder Sofrim Taibach is big time when it comes to this industry, right? And you don't what's it called? You don't bend any rules, and you don't look for a tatum. You try to make things be
high standard,
highest standard.
And very important, and it's very, very frightening. especially because Rahman al-Tan, the people have the chemda Rahman al-Tan for money, and we know what the stories in Muncie, the stories in California with the meat things, and then we have to learn to keep this high standard. Okay, I do want to wish Rabbi Deren, as I said it jokingly, but to have a job as a sheikh, it really shows the standard of what a Yireh Shamayim really is, and he said it. He really obviously really believes in it, that a shayla machtreif, you know what I mean. But it looks like he really keeps to it, and he doesn't play. He doesn't. He, as we say in English, he doesn't only walk. He doesn't only talk the talk. He walks the walk. This is
not a personal thing about me. I'm speaking about the industry.
Bracha v'atzlacha.